Today I'm going to talk to you about 5 of the best value luxury cars that you can buy at multiple different price ranges. I can do 100k, 50k, 25k, 10k and 5k, just like the last video I did last week. All of them offer great luxury for the money. Let's get straight into it. Do hit like if you want to see more videos like this. Subscribe as well for 2 videos every single week. 72% of people watching right now aren't subscribed, so I'd appreciate it if you did. Let's get straight into it. Let's kick off with our 100k car, and we're starting strong with the Rolls-Royce Wraith, which took its name from the 1938 car from the original Rolls-Royce company. I nearly included the Phantom instead of the Wraith in this video, which you can actually get even cheaper than the Wraith, but this is a special car in and of itself. Because of all 5 cars on this list, it's probably the only one you'd likely prefer to be the driver in rather than the passenger. Brand new back in 2014, these would have run you around £189,000, which in today's money adjusted for inflation is 255 grand. Today you'll get them starting at around £80,000, and for our 100k range you'll get a 2014 model with around 30,000 miles on the clock. That means these have dropped by around £175,000 total, or 69%, which is around 6.9% annually, actually the lowest total depreciation on this list. For that kind of money you'll be getting a 6.6 litre twin turbocharged V12 engine, making 624 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.6 seconds, making it the second quickest car on this list. It was also Rolls-Royce's fastest car on release, but really the main purpose of that engine is to get the car wafting along in unrivaled comfort. The one thing about buying one of these second hand is that owners who bought new would have had all the fun speccing them, as Rolls offer incredibly bespoke spec options. That 189k price I mentioned was probably paid by effectively no one, judging by the amazing examples available second hand, including features like the Starlight headliner and champagne fridge. They'd have all cost well into the 200k region. Expect to have a pretty expensive maintenance schedule on these, as though major issues aren't typically that common. When things do go wrong, they can be expensive. You should just check out Matt Armstrong's rebuild series on one to start getting an idea of the prices of parts. Next up, for our 50k car, we have the oldest car on the list, but by far the most expensive and possibly the most luxurious all in. The Maybach 57 was definitely among the most luxurious cars on release back in 2002, and it was the first car to come from the Maybach brand since it was resuscitated by Mercedes. These were based on the W140 Mercedes S-Class, and even though S-Classes are basically the standard for the luxury car class, this took it to a whole different level, as I'll show you in a moment. But before I do that, let's take a look at the eye-watering price of this when it came out in 2002, around £240,000 in old money, which is £435,000 in 2024 adjusted for inflation. Today, for such an old car, they're still reasonably pricey, starting at around £35,000, and for our 50k you'll get a 2004 model with around 50,000 miles on the clock. That means annual depreciation of around £18,000, which is a rate of 4.2% yearly, actually the lowest on this list, helped of course by it being the oldest car. In total it's lost £400,000, or 92% of its total value. These come with a 5.5 litre twin turbocharged V12 engine, making 542 brake horsepower, taking them to 60 in 5 seconds, which is very quick considering how old this car is and its intended purpose. This wasn't just named a luxury car, it was named ultra luxury, with the best quality finish on the interior, with a spec list that would outstrip a few modern luxury cars. My favourite features include the fridge and tables, the entertainment system and the electric curtains, but they're pretty cool outside too. I'd be very keen to go for a 2-tone exterior just for the flex. Like the Wraith, these will likely have a pretty expensive maintenance schedule, but mechanically they've generally been quite solid. Instead it's electrical issues that arise, likely due to how techy these were for the time. Let's half the price again and look at our 25k car. I recently had the opportunity, thanks to my friends down at the Motorland dealership in Beckenham, to have a proper look around the F02 BMW 760 Li, and what an amazing car it is for this kind of money. Even crazier, I then luckily got one as an Uber a little while ago, and my wife and I had an excellent time testing out the heated massaging seats, checking out the wine fridge and enjoying the onboard infotainment, as well as all the generally lovely build quality. These come with a serious engine too, a 6 litre twin turbocharged V12 block, which puts out 536 brake horsepower, taking them to 60 in 4.5 seconds, making this the quickest car on the list. Brand new back in 2012, this would have cost you around £103,000, which is £145,000 adjusted for inflation, whereas now these start at around the 21k mark, and for our 25k limit, you'll be getting a 2015 model that's done around 50,000 miles. That means these have lost around £124,000 total, or 85.5%, which is just over 10k per year, or 7.1%. These feel very different to other BMWs. They're like tanks with thick doors, exceptional soundproofing, and amazing rear legroom in these long wheelbase models. You can even get reclining rear seats for extra comfort. I mentioned these are tank-like, but they actually got a high security model with thicker glass, armor plating, and even an intercom system in the car so you don't have to get out to converse with the peasants. These of course were mostly used for politicians and the likes, but pretty cool that these high security models are out there somewhere. They have been known to have some software and electrical problems over the years, but from what I can see on forums, the V12 is pretty solid. In the previous generation, these had high pressure fuel pump issues, but seemingly less so with the F02. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video. If you are, then do hit the like button and subscribe as well if you're new. And let me know in the comments down below, would you rather drive or be driven around in a luxury car? We're on to our 10k price range now, and of all the cars on this list, probably the thinking person's luxury car is this one, the Lexus LS600H, the flagship car from Lexus, built to compete with the Mercedes S-Class, which is a tough place to play. But it obviously did a good enough job, as it won multiple Car of the Year awards in 2006 and 2007 on release, and it came with some serious equipment to try to rival that S-Class from a technology perspective. They'll run you around £4,500 at the bottom end right now, and for 10k we'll be looking at a 2008 model with around 100,000 miles on it. Brand new in 2007, these would have run you around £81,000, which is £134,000 adjusted for inflation. That means these have lost around £130,000 total, or 96.6% of their value, the most percentage of any car on this list. Annually though, it's about average, losing 5.7% yearly, or 7.6k. Regardless, you'll be getting yourself into a 5-litre V8 that combines with electric power to produce 439 brake horsepower, taking him to 60 in 6.1 seconds, the slowest car on this list. I think aesthetically on the exteriors, these aren't particularly special, more big and functional than your typical classy luxury vibe of some of the other cars on this list, but inside they are on par with their in-period competitors. In these longer wheelbase models, you can get executive rear seating, which kind of feel like business class on a plane. What these did really well was focus on the occupant's comfort to a ridiculous level, including features like air diffusers in the ceiling, air purifiers, air ionizers, and body temperature sensors to make sure people aren't too hot or cold. As these are Toyotas, they have generally been quite reliable mechanically. Some owners have had issues with batteries for the hybrid system, and others have had air suspension problems, but that's quite typical of a luxury car of its age. It is an expensive replacement though. Finally, we have our 5k car, which I already mentioned a couple of times throughout this video, the Mercedes S-Class, as the car that generally runs the show in the luxury car class. Yes, it's not on a level of luxury with cars like Rolls-Royces and Maybachs, but it still remains the comparison car across this sector, and is the one that's most popular as an executive taxi, chauffeur car, and all the rest. In this video, I'm talking specifically about the S500L from the W221 generation, which is the Mark V S-Class, though of course for under 5k you'll only be getting an early example. That L means it's a long wheelbase model though, and it gets a pretty aggressive engine too, a 5.5 litre V8 block making 382 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 5.4 seconds, pretty good performance for a car this cheap. Speaking of cheap, these start at just under our 5k limit, so at 5k we'll be looking at a 2006 example with around 75,000 miles on it. Brand new back in 2006, these would have cost you around £74,000, which is 125k adjusted for inflation, meaning that these have dropped by around 120k, or 96% of their value in total. For the mega nerds among you, that's around 5.3% depreciation per year, or our lowest actual price of 6.7k lost per year. It's quite a muscular S-Class on the outside, and it set the tone for following generations with its slightly larger size and very simple overall design, at least when compared with its predecessor, which was smaller and less bulky. Inside, however, it stuck to tradition, not being overly flary but offering a similar level of luxury to the Lexus we just spoke about, with maybe a touch more refinement. But as these are all about tech, that's what really shines, with features like the hydropneumatic body control, an early example of a GPS system built into the car for help, and other fun features like these self-closing doors. There are a bunch of horror stories with these around the 7G automatic gearbox, and there have been electrical problems galore over the years too, but the V8 is generally considered to be pretty strong. I hope you like my picks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but thanks for watching, and thanks to the patrons. Go click on screen for another video on some cheap luxury cars.